Highlights of the news today, Monday 3rd of November 2014. Children of 8 are racist if they miss Islam trip. School's threatening letter to parents is met with outrage. In torrent of rapes in Britain, an uncomfortable focus on race and ethnicity. 3 brothers abuse 54 girls in Rotherham but remain at large. Trial of imam accused of conducting hundreds of sham marriages to get British passports for foreign men collapses because Home Office officials didn't get round to reading case files. Police put cap on arrests in Rochdale sex abuse inquiry. Social worker whistleblower says dozens of offenders are still on the streets. Catchups from ImNoKuffar. Congo crowd kills man, eats him after militant massacres. Egypt is punishing Gaza for attack on its military by Hamas militants. Thought for the day, imported madness. And finally, 2 for 1 Day Monday. UK News. Children of 8 are racist if they miss Islam trip. School's threatening letter to parents is met with outrage. Littleton Green Community School headmistress Lynn Small ordered parents to send their children to a workshop on Islam or have them labelled as racist for the rest of their school career. They were sent a letter warning that primary school pupils would have a racial discrimination note put on their records if they didn't go. Families were told to pay £5 per child for the Explore Islam trip next Wednesday to Staffordshire University, which would involve Year 4 and Year 6 children being shown Islamic artefacts. Parents accused Littletown Green Community School of blackmailing children to go to a workshop on Islam. South Staffordshire MP Gavin Williamson described the threat as bonkers and a very heavy-handed approach. Littleton Green Community School in Huntington, Staffordshire was told it required improvement by Ofsted. A spokesman for Staffordshire County Council said it was important for children to learn about different cultures, but that parents had the right to withdraw their children if they wished. World at 8. Children can learn about different cultures without having millions of those cultures at their schools or living on their doorsteps. Make the Muslim kids go to a Christian church, just for a change of pace. In torrent of rapes in Britain, an uncomfortable focus on race and ethnicity. From the New York Times, Rochdale, England, Shabir Ahmed, a delivery driver for 2 takeout places, didn't have to go looking for young girls. Runaways and rebellious teenagers would show up at the restaurant, often hungry and cold. He slipped them free drinks and chicken tikka masala. "Call me daddy," he would say. But soon Mr Ahmed, a father of 4, would demand payback. In a room above one of the restaurants, according to testimony and evidence in later legal proceedings against him, he would play a pornographic DVD and pass around shots of vodka. Then, on a floor mattress with crumpled blue sheets and kitchen smells wafting from below, he raped them and later forced them into sex with co-workers and friends as well. The girls were too scared of him to talk, and when they did, no one believed them. At once a 15-year-old got so drunk and upset she smashed a glass counter. Mr Ahmed and his colleagues did not hesitate to call the police. After she was released, she was coerced into sex 4 or 5 times a week, sometimes with half a dozen men at a time, in apartments and taxis around Rochdale, a town in northwest England near Manchester. The police and other agencies were alerted more than 100 times over 6 years to the possibility that something very wrong was happening before Mr Ahmed, now 61, was arrested and charged as the leader of a sexual exploitation ring that involved 8 men of Pakistani descent and 1 Afghan. In May 2012 he was given a 19-year prison sentence for raping and abetting rape in a case involving at least 47 girls, all of them white. Mr Ahmed is a rare example in such a case of someone who has been charged, tried and convicted of rape. His case sheds light on how grooming gangs work and how they have contributed to a broader pattern of sexual abuse of children involving British celebrities, politicians, private school teachers and clergymen. World at 8. A rare bird indeed. The whole crux of that particular problem is Muslim orientated. In their own countries the only customers they would get would be old men or married women, so thus not worth the sexual blackmail or grooming. Over here they think they've gone to paradise with British youngsters so brainwashed they'll give blowjobs for chips in many northern areas. Endemic is not the word for it. 3 brothers abuse 54 girls in Rotherham but remain at large. 3 brothers alleged to have abused more than 50 girls in Rotherham remain at large, despite police being told about their activities more than a decade ago, it's been claimed. A former Rotherham council researcher said mentions of the brothers, who are of Pakistani descent, featured very heavily in a dossier she produced for police in 2001 on suspected abusers in the town. But the information was never acted upon, and the researcher has told MPs that the men have never been prosecuted for the alleged abuse despite facing other charges on different criminal matters. In her evidence to the Home Affairs Select Committee, the researcher said she had put together a document detailing information about suspected abusers. She said the information was given to the police in the hope they would pursue criminal charges against perpetrators, but her dossier was dismissed as unhelpful. The researcher said the three brothers were suspected of abusing 54 girls in October 2001, with the fourth brother also becoming involved in abuse in later years. One of the men was named by 18 different girls as their boyfriend, with several believed they'd been made pregnant by him when they were under 16. She said none of the brothers, who were not named, have ever been prosecuted in relation to the allegations. Details about the family were also included in a report sent in 2003 to Rotherham Council, South Yorkshire Police and the Home Office. The researcher's report said the family was also alleged to have been involved in violent crime and drug dealing. It said although the suspected perpetrators had been charged with different criminal offences on many occasions, the charges related to violent crime and driving offences. No charges for exploitation had been brought. South Yorkshire Police said the matter is likely to form part of the National Crime Agency's investigation into abuse in the town. World at 8. Never mind that dossier, how about the research I carried out on behalf of Profam? I stated years ago it was members of the Pakistani Bangladeshi communities and often a family-based business where the parents actually lend out the houses to their relations for the purpose of sexual abuse. Trial of imam accused of conducting hundreds of sham marriages to get British passports for foreign men collapses because Home Office officials didn't get round to reading case files. A trial of a man accused of conducting almost 600 sham marriages as an imam has collapsed after prosecutors said the Home Office had not finished vital paperwork. Mohammed Mattar, 63 of West Hampstead, London, was arrested more than 2 years ago over the claims, which he denied, saying he was just a humble bookseller. But prosecutors said they were forced to offer no evidence after Home Office investigators failed to disclose vital information before a court time limit. World at 8. If he'd been an elderly, rich white guy, that paperwork would have been pristine, don't you know it? Police put cap on arrests in Rochdale sex abuse inquiry. Social worker whistleblower says dozens of offenders are still on the streets. Dozens of child sex offenders are still walking the streets because police refuse to arrest them, according to a whistleblower. Sarah Rowbotham has accused police of putting a cap on the number of child sex offenders they arrested for raping and abusing young girls. The veteran social worker, who was responsible for gathering the main evidence in the 2012 Rochdale child sex abuse case, said that as a result dozens of sex offenders were still walking the streets preying on children. Ms Rowbotham said limited resources and manpower during the investigation meant police had let sex offenders slip through the net. She said because police bosses became obsessed with convicting just 9 perpetrators, they left dozens free to continue raping and abusing young girls. Her explosive comments will stun Greater Manchester Police, whose Police and Crime Commissioner launched a report highlighting the massive problem of child sexual exploitation. The report highlighted 13,000 cases of child sex abuse in the last 6 years, but revealed that only 1,078 offenders had been convicted. Commissioner Tony Lloyd has vowed to go back and review cases where victims have made sex abuse allegations. The whistleblower said she was still disappointed that no one had been held to account for their failings, and she was disappointed with the results of a report led by MP ImNoKuffar. Ms Rowbotham, who fought for a serious case review and was commended for her work by the Home Affairs Select Committee, was made redundant in February. Ian Hanson, chairman of Greater Manchester Police Federation, said it's grossly unfair that both the organisation and our police officer members collectively are singled out and blamed by some for what is a failure of the whole system. World at 8. No, Hanson, it is the steadfast acknowledgement by the plods that on orders from the establishment they do not tackle any Muslims unless even they cannot turn a blind eye. It isn't the whistleblowers who are being ignored, it is the message from patriots that it is mainly a Muslim crime in this country, or rather something that could, if truth be told, stir up racial and religious hatred, and quite rightly. There is no European news today. I now hand you over to ImNoKuffar, who catches up after his illness in fine form.
Hi folks, ImNoKuffar here. I'm back after 2 months in hospital, or 9 weeks actually, and I've been completely out of contact, so I didn't really know what was happening in regards to the party. It was a really nice welcome home present to find out that the party had split and that basically people who should not be in control are in control, and it was stabbed in the back. Most disappointing. I've been a member of the party for 10 years. Most of you have listened to my tones, my written stuff, my speeches, and I hope that you will still continue to do so. I think that we should stand behind Nick in whatever ventures he gets up to next. He's no fool, and he will undoubtedly carry on, as should we all. We should all carry on, and I can't emphasise this enough. We cannot give in. There are some things bigger than an individual or even a group, and nationalism is bigger than all of us. So we have to try and rectify what is wrong with this nation, by whatever means we can, within the law, of course. Nick has given blood, sweat and tears. He has sacrificed a lot. His party has suffered a lot. His family has suffered a lot. And lots of good people within the party have also suffered. Don't let this all be for nothing. Let us continue, by whatever means. This we owe to those who have departed, i.e. have died, those who want to continue to try and fight for justice, truth, nationalism, and our way of life and being. There isn't an alternative to Nick, and that much is completely obvious. I'm more or less disgusted with the way things have gone, but I'm going to carry on. I just hope that you stand with me, and Nick, and the rest of the party members who also want to carry on. Now, I'm just going to read something out, which has got nothing to do with any of this. But something I came across or wrote on the internet, and I hope you enjoy it. It's called Let Us Be Offended. Year after year, Muslims and Islamic organisations have managed to push for still more Islamisation of our cultures. Their main tool for this is their world-famous, embarrassing tendency to take offence at virtually anything. Their victim mentality and lack of responsibility for their own actions are natural consequences of being raised within an immature culture that promotes a psychology of outer locus of control. The feeling that one's inner and outer life are primarily decided by outer factors. Arabs are not surprisingly the easiest offended people on the planet, feeling 19.7 times more easily ridiculed than the least offended people, the Danes. Well, if you ride around on camels, what can you expect? It is shocking to witness how our secular authorities continue to submit to Muslims' often childish and threatening way of expressing this completely subjective emotion. The result has been a sleepwalk towards still more implementation of the hateful, racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, misogynistic Sharia that the UN and the European Court of Human Rights has condemned as being against human rights and the antithesis of democracy. I quote. That offends me. The fact that Muslims have gotten so far with their agenda by constantly playing ridiculous but seemingly effective victim card is a clear sign of weakness in our culture. A weakness that we can exploit, as it seems that this is the most powerful rhetoric of our time, especially if you are English citizens or residents and feel offended by anything originating from Islam. Please report it to the police. At present, this seems the only way to get our freedom of speech back. Spam the police, the editors, Facebook and the authorities with complaints about being offended. We are offended by the fact that Islamic organisations do not distance themselves from hate and violence in their holy scriptures and rivers of blood shed in the name of their religion. And it offends us that the police still have not arrested a single Islamic leader for spreading such hate speech, while they do their utmost to prosecute any non-Muslim daring to express his or her emotional anger or rational criticism over the xenophobic Qurans, genocidal orders and the devastating consequences of Muslim and other immigration. We're offended by the way Muslim men treat their women, leaving them without basic human rights and dignity. We are offended about how Muslims come to our lands, suck our welfare system dry, take the living piss out of us, and colonise whole areas of cities without any sign of gratitude, because basically they are the perfect people and they feel entitled to it. Now, if we do so, in the end, supposedly, our lawmakers will be forced to either prosecute Muslims for constantly offending us or cancel the dangerous hate speech laws that limit free speech and scare people away from expressing life-saving truths. Either way, and I think the politicians will choose to cancel the anti-free speech laws instead of offending Muslims by prosecuting them by the same laws that they happily prosecute non-Muslims by. We should win, but, we all hope for the best in this best of all possible worlds. Anyway, save free speech. Use it.
Thank you, ImNoKuffar, and welcome back and keep well. World news. Congo crowd kills man, eats him after militant massacres. Beni, Democratic Republic of Congo, a crowd stoned to death a young man in northeast Congo on Friday before burning and eating his corpse, witnesses said, in apparent revenge for a series of attacks by Ugandan rebels. The incident in the town of Beni followed a number of overnight raids in the area blamed on the Islamist group Adaf Nol, who are thought to have massacred more than 100 people this month using hatchets and machetes to kill their victims. Lovely. Witnesses said the man, who has not been identified, aroused suspicion on a bus when passengers discovered he could not speak the local Swahili language and that he was carrying a machete. Speaking from the town of Beni, Congo's President Joseph Kabila said the Adaf Nalu militants would face the same fate as the rebel movement of M23, which was defeated by a UN-backed government offensive last year. There is no question of negotiation with the terrorists, Kabila said in a speech at a local hotel. They will be defeated, as was the case with M23, and it will be very soon. Adaf Nalu is the alliance of groups opposed to the Ugandan government that has operated from bases in neighbouring Congo since the mid-2000s, undermining Kinshasa's grip on the area. The movement was blamed for the deaths of 14 people killed early on Thursday in the village of Kampi Yachui, bringing the total death roll this month to at least 107, said Teddy Kataliko, president of the Civil Society of Beni. World at 8, soon to be near you as well as Ebola. Oh, the joys of mass immigration from Africa. Egypt is punishing Gaza for attack on its military by Hamas militants. Egyptian authorities last Tuesday ordered residents living along the country's eastern border with the Gaza Strip to evacuate so they can demolish their homes and set up a buffer zone to stop weapons and militant trafficking between Egypt and the Palestinian territory, officials said. The measure comes 4 days after Islamic militant fighters attacked an army post, killing at least 31 soldiers in the restive areas in the northeastern corner of the Sinai Peninsula. After the attack, Egypt declared a state of emergency and dawn to dusk curfew there. Authorities also indefinitely closed the Gaza crossing, the only non-Israeli passage for the crowded strip of the world. The buffer zone, which will include water-filled trenches to thwart tunnel diggers, will be 500 metres yards wide and extended along the 13-kilometre 9-mile border. The Egyptian army has waged a broad offensive in northern Sinai against Islamic groups who have turned several areas into strongholds over the past 3 years, destroying most of the sprawling smuggling tunnels that connected the area with Gaza. World at 8. Al-Sisi is my man, long may he reign. Thought for the day: imported madness? The Celts, Gaels, Druids, Romans, Saxons and Normans have always had a reputation for being slightly mad. Not quite as mad as the present-day Somalis, who are mind-bendingly balmy, but slightly quirky, to put it mildly. This has now been translated in the present socio-economic climate as willing to pay anything to anybody to be anything but English. Due to the destruction by the establishment and media of whatever remained of our own personal idea of patriotism, history or culture, we have adopted and not adapted various stupids from around the world, or merely enlarged on our own mediocre celebrations. This is clearly to identify us or link us with the more attractive ethnic celebrations of Diwali, which is splashing of red or colour powder all over everything if not in the sodding Ganges. Eid, where devout Muslims kill everything by killing its throat after Ramadan. Lovely, and other more esoteric ghastly foreign practices now practised over here. We also celebrate La Défense in buying container loads of absolute crap for Halloween, All Saints' Eve or Samhain, depending on your outlook in life. During the last few years I've seen normal shops suddenly look like the cave of the Mountain King Mitt elves overnight. The shelves sprout horrible heads and bloody hands, awful costumes and even more awful so-called sweets, which I admit I did buy to give the poor little kids something for their trouble. And some of the costumes that came round our house were obviously hard work for their mums. I was glad to see Mars and Pars coming round with their little children, but surprised to hear from one mother that we were one of the only houses who opened their doors that night. You would think from the amount of stuff for sale for just one night that the entire population of Borden was celebrating this witches' festival, or rather that of the dead walking the earth for one night. But no, so who buys this crap, and is it saved for yet another year when it has not flown off the shelf? Of course, the day after, the shelves are cleared and guess what? Guy Fawkes Day. Ghastly cheap fireworks that are more bang than glitter are literally covering the shelves along with the sweets that did not sell for Halloween. Why do the Brits celebrate the day on which a guy was hung, drawn and quartered for trying to do what the average Brit wants to do anyway, blow up the Houses of Parliament? Are we celebrating the lack of success maybe? I hate November the 5th with an undying hatred. I hate the way we Brits pay out for sheer crap when we used to make that crap much better ourselves, and indeed at one point in my career I worked for one of the descendants of Brock's fireworks, which used to be the best. Nowadays, of course, China has taken the manufacture of fireworks for the West to gain new heights of cheapness and lack of safety. This doesn't matter to the average idiot who gaily lets off hundreds of these things in built-up areas, on cheap estates or in public just for fun. I don't object to them doing it on the actual night of November the 5th, but days beforehand or days after, are they mad or just plain stupid? The awful fire that killed 2 men and severely injured another in Stafford was in the industrialist unit of Tilcon Avenue, which is just a few hundred yards from 150 homes, and had been used to store what the police describe as a significant volume of fireworks. Tributes were paid yesterday to 2 men killed in a fire at a fireworks warehouse. Stuart Staples, 57, a customer who'd gone off to buy a box of fireworks, and Simon Hillier, 41, who was working at the warehouse as a favour to a friend, died when explosions tore through SP Plastics in Stafford on Thursday evening. A third man, named locally as SP Plastics owner Richard Pearson, 47, remained critically ill in hospital last night following the blaze, which friends said they believe was a tragic accident. Yup, may be accidental, but were these fireworks made in the UK, and what was their safety record? All this has been kept very quiet. Animals everywhere and a goodly proportion of humans hate the noise, the smell and the selfishness of their fellow man. It goes without saying that monitored and general public firework displays are great for kids, but around the streets or thrown into someone's garden, no, not very nice at all. My cats stay in for a fortnight when the idiots are around, letting them off even after midnight when they're probably very drunk. That's the idiots, not the cats. After this has had its sorry day, the stores are cleared once more and then voila, Christmas has come early. And once again entire shelves are denuded of necessary stuff to make way for more crap, also of course made in China. And as the Chinese are not Christians, this mixes in with the diversity and multicultural or multi-ethnic image we must project onto the world. Can you find a manger or a crib? Can you find an angel or a shepherd? In fact, can you find anything that promotes the Christian message of Christmas in that the hint is in the title, Christmas? No, you can't, and I've tried every year for years and I'm not particularly a very good Christian, but it would appear no one else is either. They mumble about Christmas losing its message, but the truth is, it's us who have allowed it to happen. No carolers allowed on the streets, no Sally Army, in fact no direct message on the real meaning of the Christian Christmas at all. Even in the States, which celebrates it out in the burbs more than us, have taken to calling it a winter sodding holiday. No, it isn't. It's Christmas, you morons. I don't care if the dates are wrong, I don't care if you worship trees more than St Nicholas, and I don't care if it came from Germany or Timbuktu. It's Christmas to me. Even my family don't send cards now, but I do. I used to give prezzies but was ticked off for it from them, so I don't do that. And as for filial get-togethers, forget it. There's so much misinformation on the fact that families who celebrate Christmas together always find it just so awful and stressful that even now people actually believe this crap as well. But the fact remains that despite the adverse publicity and the positive way we are encouraged to spend money we can ill afford on sheer crap really made in Europe, people are still bringing in more foreign holidays or celebrations. It started with stupid wedding themes in even more ridiculous places for ridiculous people. Stag nights and hen nights costing a fortune. In the old days, weddings took place without all that and were fine. Now shops and organisers are jumping on the bandwagon with prom nights and prom dresses. Ugh, do me a favour please. Overindulged and over here. If the average, and I mean average idiot, who spends huge amounts of money they can ill afford for a Romford princess, put this money away, it would pay for their divorce. If we stopped buying and started boycotting Chinese-made crap, we could pay off the national debt within a couple of years. Supermarkets and cheap smaller stores should be fined for stocking all this rubbish, and that would pay the shareholders. The only people to suffer would be the millions of Chinese working their butts off in ghastly factories, but then I don't care about them at all. So we have the scenario the media and the establishment throw what they think we are worth at us. Pay money to the importers who employ immigrant workforces to distribute this junk, and we all go along with it and at the same time are destroying what little culture we have in the process. It is a winner for the plan, isn't it? And finally, 2 for 1 day Monday. A telephone rings and a woman answers. Pervert, breathing heavily, says, "I bet you have a tight arse with no hair." The woman replies, "Yes, I have. He's watching the football. Who shall I say is calling?" And full body scans at airport. TSA disclosed the following airport screening results. December 2013 statistics on airport full body screening from CATSA. Terrorists discovered, 0. Transvestites, 133. Hernias, 1,485. Hemorrhoid cases, 3,172. Enlarged prostates, 8,249. Breast implants, 59,350. And natural blondes, 3. It was also discovered that 308 politicians had no balls. You've been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart and I wish you all a very good night. Take care with fireworks and remember you are not the only ones to have to listen or look at them in this overcrowded country.